Hello, dears. This is Veronica here. So let's start. What's on the table today? A little bit of single sign-on, a little bit of filter improvements, a little bit of machine translation, and a little bit of terminology. This is what we have for you for today and in 9.7. So regarding single sign-on, this is where we left off with 9.6. Users can have the users can use their Google account if the memoQ server was set up so. They can also use their company system SSO account. The memoQ server users could be migrated to these users. So what about companies who already have had a Windows Active Directory connected to memoQ server? It's been up for a long time, so there is a lot of setup. Some clients even have groups set up in Active Directory, which are also used in memoQ. So those people who have had these users in Active Directory, thus memoQ server, even though their company started using a new, more modern system, they were stuck with still having to log in twice into the two systems. So what comes with 9.7 is that these users can also be converted to the new type of SSO users. So that is fine. And if this new system happens to be compatible with Windows Active Directory, which in practice means it's Microsoft Azure Active Directory, then even the groups can be used the same way as they were. So no new setup is needed for those. So this is the new thing around single sign-on. As for the how to make our lives easier, first is a very, very geeky filter, XLIFF 2. The XLIFF 2 filter standard has been live for almost 7 years now. The CAT tools, the TMS tools didn't really switch to this new standard. It is a bit more mature. It handles a bit more of the reality around translation, but as it is not compatible with XLIFF 1, switching the standard in a TMS tool would be quite a lot of work. This is why I don't know of any who actually switched, but I may be missing something. On the other hand, some companies who create their own XLIFF files, they started using it, and there are big companies among them. So we created a separate filter for XLIFF 2, and we are handling some features, not all of the features because it is a huge standard, but the popular features we are supporting. Among them, XLIFF states are mapped to memoQ statuses, both at import and at export the other way around, and you can of course change what is mapped to what. Segments that are marked as non-translatable will be imported as logged. Notes will be imported as comments. If a segment is, or a bigger area in XLIFF 2, you can have groups and files as well. But if a section is marked as something that cannot be resegmented, it is even possible that you can resegment, that is join and split the segments within memoQ, but when you export the file, the same segmentation will return as you had before. There are these MDA meta tags that are extensively used to, well, for meta information, especially in the software industry. And the information therein is also imported as comments. And tags can have a display value in the XLIFF standard. Those will be shown in the medium and filtered views. So this was XLIFF 2. It is a kind of a filter that if you get such a file, you will be very, very happy that there is such a filter. If you never see such a file, then it won't help you. But this is the thing with all the filters. So apart from that, some filter changes. While we were playing around with XLIFF 2, we did change a couple of things around XLIFF 1. First, we rearranged the options dialog. So if you meet it again, please be advised that even the old options are at different places. We basically have a languages section, a white space section, a segmentation section, and a tags section. And the new options are among the white space options. There they are. It appears that for some cases, even things that you would reasonably think they should not be imported, they should still be imported. So for each of these options, the empty source, the space-only source, and the leading and trailing spaces, there were some use cases where people really needed these to be imported. But the default is, of course, the way it used to be. So if you had no issue with this, then you don't need to touch anything, and the same thing will happen as it used to. And another thing is in Microsoft Word, track changes has this option where if you moved a piece of text, then it is not a deletion and an insertion, but it is displayed as a moved text. And this we just started supporting in memoQ as well. So this is how it will look in memoQ. To be more exact, this is the place from where the text was moved. This is shown here in Word, and we have a special placeholder tag for it in memoQ. As you see, you don't have the actual text, neither in Word nor in memoQ. And this is where the text was moved to. There is also a special placeholder that shows memoQ. This is the same thing. Notice the ID. And this is where the text actually appears within memoQ. So this is what you see in memoQ if you import a docx file that had some moves like this, and you import it with track changes included. So, and now let me give the floor to Zsolt.
Okay, so today I want to talk a little bit about machine translation. 9.7 introduces a new Google MT plugin. First off, why do we need a new plugin from Google? Well, the reason for that is that we've had a number of requests from our users who are planning to use Google's new custom NMT features and even glossary features, but those were not available under the Google Cloud Translation Basic API interface. So now we implemented the new plugin for the advanced interface, which means that now we have two Google plugins in memoQ. The old one, the basic, it was renamed to Google Cloud Translation Basic, is still the same. And we have a new one called Advanced, which is primarily used to get access to your custom neural machine translation models, as well as glossaries. So this is what you will see, or what you can see in memoQ 9.7. If we move on, this is how the new interface looks like. As I pointed out, you can use your custom models that you set up under Google AutoML, and using a JSON file, you can actually connect your service account to this new Google MT plugin. As you can see at the top, it says select the service account's JSON file you downloaded from Google Cloud Platform. Let's stop here for a second. So whoever has already used the Google Basic MT plugin they used it with an API key. To be able to use this new Google plugin, you would need a JSON file that you will need to generate under Google Cloud Platform. And to do that, you need to create a service account. So you need a brand new credential, so to say, compared to the old one. Once you have that JSON file, you need to locate it with the browse button. And if everything checks out fine, then you get a authentication successful message. After that, you have the option to select multiple custom models that you created in AutoML, Google AutoML. You can select one per language combination. So as you can see here, we have two, one from English to German and one from English to Hungarian. And I selected one here. Please take note that if you don't select any custom model, or if you don't have any custom models trained in Google AutoML, or your service account does not have the permission to access these custom models, then you will see that no custom models are selected. And even under the drop-down window, you will see an explanation that if you don't choose any custom model, or there's no custom model available for that language pair, Google will use the general model. So this is sort of a note to those questions already on Facebook. You know, should I use the new advanced plugin, or should I use the old one? Well, I recommend that you use the new advanced plugin if you have your custom models already trained, or if you already have a glossary made available, which is the next feature I want to present. For both of those, you need to set up the service account that I talked to you about. You need to do some or play some tricks in Google Cloud Platform. So this is not a typical easy to set up thing. Be prepared to spend a bit of time with that. Primarily, this new plugin is recommended to users who have language engineers on the team who can set these things up. But with a little practice, you can do it on your own, even if you're a translator. Please be aware that there are certain pricing issues involved. So please check out Google Cloud, the Google Cloud documentation, where you will find your answers. In the glossary feature, moving on, in the glossary feature, you can select only one glossary to avoid any kind of issues in multiple language projects. So let's make sure that you select one that you plan to use. As you can see, I have three options here. I have bilingual glossaries, and I have also multilingual or unidirectional glossaries, as Google likes to call it. The difference between using a glossary and not using a glossary, this is another common comment on Facebook, is basically whether you would use a find and replace or not. Currently, the glossary features in MT plugins support basically find and replace functionality. So please do not expect too much from that. But if you combine your custom models with the glossary feature, you will get much better blue scores than with the base model. We've measured our during the tests, and we achieved at least 15 to 20% increase, or 20 point increase in our blue scores. Some of my friends even achieved more, 20 to 30 points in the blue scores as far as the quality of the translation. And last but not least, you can see the same familiar formatting and tags, regex exclusion, and request format options that are already available in the basic plugin. So I hope you will enjoy it. I've had several contacts reaching out to me that they want to use their custom MT models with Google MT. So here it is. Enjoy and give us some feedback if you have any. Moving on, this is not something that we've developed, but this is just, I'm just the messenger bringing you some good news that DeepL, as of, I believe, mid-March, DeepL has been supporting 13 new languages, European languages. Here's the list. And the good news is that even those who are still on 9.6 will be able to use it because the memoQ just queries the list of supported languages from DeepL whenever you use DeepL in memoQ. So it's basically memoQ independent. Just wanted to give you some heads up as far as the available languages in DeepL. Moving on to terminology improvements. This feature, the toggle case in term bases, is the very first one that comes from our public idea portal. It's from one of our freelancer users. And we discussed the feature requests from various perspectives, and we came up with the idea to enable toggle case functionality in memoQ when you create a new term or when you edit an existing term or even when you're in your term-based editor. So here on the right, you can see when I clicked on the source side, I clicked Sheldon's name, I press Control E, and in the create term-based entry, I want to change Sheldon's name to capital S and the rest of them in lowercase. So I can just use Shift F3 or click the new icon, and the letter casing will change accordingly. When you edit a new term-based entry by simply just right-clicking and selecting edit, then you have the same option. I have a screenshot at the bottom left corner to show you that there's this more button that so far has had this medium setting that you could expand it and even collapse it. But from memoQ 9.7, your memoQ client will remember your settings. So if you want to use it in the minimalistic way, like I do here on the screen, you can just collapse it all the way to the least amount of information, and memoQ will remember it whenever you open this edit term-based entry dialog again. If you prefer to have the same as before, then you can just click more, or if you want to see all the information, including entry-level information, such as domain, subject, and so on, then you can click more once more. So this is how you do it while you're working in memoQ. And if you're in your term-based editor, I think this is the real deal. Very often you would get documents to translate. There are, say, legal documents, all capitals, and you don't want to spend time with editing every single entry one by one. So you can just add those entries, and then you can then edit them in batch in your term-based editor. All you have to do is just select the range or even individual items. Here I selected the range from ID 6 through 11. Then you go to this new icon in the corresponding language column. So here I wanted to change the English terms to lowercase. I pressed it, then I have this new confirm batch operation dialog coming up, telling me that I selected multiple English entries, and I have the option to select, I have the options here listed with the radio buttons, and also a warning that you cannot undo this operation, so please exercise some caution when you do that. So this is how the toggle case works in memoQ. Another thing where we improved terminology in memoQ is Q-term, multi-term import and export mapping. A number of our clients have reported their requests to be able to migrate term bases from SDL, or even if they are in a setup where their client is using SDL, and they need to return the term base in SDL's format, then they would need to be able to export the content from QTerm to SDL when they are finished with the project. So in order to support that workflow, we implemented an import and export mapping. As you can see here in the on the import screen, you can map the fields in your multi-term export file to this QTerm term basis built-in fields, and you can only map fields on the same level, like entry language or term, and on the same field type. And the exception is going to be QTerm's forbidden field, where we provide you with the option to select the individual field in your SDL term base, as well as the values that denote that it's a forbidden term. For those of you who are not familiar with the multi-term format, multi-term uses a free format, so you can define anything. Basically, you can set up your term base any way you want. So therefore, it's really it's not that easy to detect what is your forbidden term. So this is why you need to provide some input here. So once you have this mapping done, then you will no longer have those duplicate fields or even out of fields that you have to sort. And also your forbidden terms will show up correctly in QTerm as well as in your memoQ projects. Same for export. For exporting, you can just denote, you can select the fields you want to export, and you can even rename those fields. So if you know that your original SDL multi-term term base had media instead of image caption, then you would change the name to media. And also this interface just catches issues where you want to give the same name to the same to multiple fields. So it gives you some warnings, and also you have the option to select your forbidden terms and provide values for those forbidden terms. So this is once again just to help workflows where you need to move term bases between multi-term and QTerm. Also in QTerm, we implemented a user-specific filter settings, whereby you can define for individual users or user groups which QTerm filters they can have access to. So you can select multiple ones. So if you have a group of users that you would like to restrict to certain to use only certain terms that are included in specific filters, then you can select these filters, and those users will only see the designated terms and not the rest of them. This is especially useful for localization companies or gaming companies, wherever, say, multiple versions of a game are being localized, and you want to make sure that, for instance, your translator B is working with the terminology that belongs to version 5 of the game and not version 4 or 6. That's pretty much it that we wanted to talk to you about. So thank you for your attention, and now we have a session devoted to questions, if you have any. Should I give back the screen to you? 3
all together, and they are all for you. So,
all right. Hi, Jeremy. The batch case change option is very cool. Thanks. Is there a corresponding way of doing that with QTerm as well, which doesn't have a term-based editor of the same type? No, it doesn't have it yet. We are planning to have a QTerm revamp later down the road, but we don't have exact dates for that. But we would appreciate to submit it as a feature request, and so that will help us focus on that in the future. When it comes to QTerm multi-term import export, is it possible to import multiple multi-term resources into a single Q term? Well, I would say that not in one go, but yes, you can add obviously one after the other. It's if you're thinking about something like a batch import, just like we did for TMs in memoQ. No, it's not available here. It's specifically designed to enable the transfer of large volumes of data, like thousands of entries in term bases. If you have multiple term bases, please use this feature. 1 TB at a time. How user-specific filters on Q terms interact with memoQ project templates. If we want to define a default for the template to use, which user should we release it to if template is triggered via WS API? I don't think I can answer the question here. I need to check with the developers on that. So I will respond to that question in writing, I think. Okay, so once again, the question about Qterm TB. I have one Qterm TB and two filters. Does it mean that I can see the permissions? So group 1 of the user can only see the TB with filter 1 and group 2 TB with filter 2? Exactly, that's the plan. So you can define which group of users can see what content within your TB. Obviously, you want to apply filters to select the right content for the right group. Not a specific configuration,
yeah,
but
that's an XLIFF 2 question.
Yeah, sorry.
Expanded. There is no general answer for that because it really depends. So for some cases, sorry. For example, this is a good example. Translate is no, so non-translatable segments will definitely be exported as non-translatable segments, sure. In other cases, for example, when we talk about the states of segments in XLIFF 2, then it does make sense to change it. Also, around segmentation, there is an option where you can define whether you want your segmentation changes to be represented in the exported XLIFF 2 file or you don't. So sometimes you have an option. Sometimes when we thought it is fairly obvious which one is the good choice, then there is no option. But as with each and every filter, it is going to change and expand based on what users require. So we work based on the sample files we get from you, because the standard itself is not enough. What we need to see is how actual people use these actual file formats. This is why I'm always begging for sample files for whichever feature.
Okay, we have a few more. I'm not sure about the question by Birgit Hoffman. Still no plans to make the integrated memoQ function more attractive. Example, providing input models to save information on source context if you add multiple terms from one source. If you mean what the source of those specific terms are, in memoQ client, you can use one of the available fields. In Qterm, you can create your own custom field. If adding to multiple ones, I'm not sure, I have to check, but you might want to submit it as a feature request, and we'll take a look into that. Winfried Zeller, does Qterm relate to the terminology module of language terminal or the cloud version of memoQ, or also to the desktop version of memoQ Translator Pro? Qterm is a module in memoQ Web, which you need to purchase separately. So definitely not memoQ Translator Pro. And as far as cloud, help me out here, Veronica. I'm not sure if you can purchase Qterm for cloud version.
I'm not sure either.
I would suspect that cloud is supposed to be. Yeah, I would have to consult the web shop here and maybe check it out there. But yes, whenever you have memoQ Web available, you can purchase Qterm as an add-on module. Okay, hi, I'm still on 9.3. Any chance you're going to implement or have already implemented very simple change option to view progress in terms of total translated words in the status bar instead of percentages? I don't think we've, well, as far as the status bar, the only changes we've implemented recently was showing the current position of the cursor within the segment. So whatever is available in 9.6 and 9.7 should be available in 9.3 as far as the status bar goes. Okay. Franco, okay, build a rewritten list of memoQ terminology and definitions. There's a term likely for several languages. I'm not sure if I understand that question.
I don't either, and I read it a couple of times.
Yeah, maybe if you, Franco, can just specify a little later.
Please expand on it.
Yeah.
In the meantime, let me answer Fabian. Apply a project template to SDL or transit project package. I don't yet know when it will be possible. I can say maybe later this year, but next year the latest. I'll see how it goes. That's my project, the one after the next. So yeah, next year early next year the latest. As for testing each version against drag and dictate, we don't. I'm sorry, we can't really test against third-party software. There are a lot that people use our software with. No, we don't.
Okay. Birgit once again just said she meant the standard terminology function when she talked about source information. No, we actually plan to implement it, but we would have to reach deep down into the terminology engine, and it would have caused a lot of havoc. So we eventually had to drop the idea because it would just take a whole lot of effort and a lot of potential errors, or basically high risk. So we, as far as the client goes, we still stick with the original fields that are currently available. Scott Bass, running version 9.7.6 and the 2 Google plugins are not showing, only one. Will this be in the future release? No, it should be there. Well, I currently have 9.7.5. I don't think I've upgraded it to 6, but both of them should show up there in the empty list. I'll check it out later. Okay, can I add the same Qterm TB twice to a project? Once with filter 1 for the translation and once with filter 2 for the QA check, where I can use the entries which are relevant. I don't think so. Because when you're in a project, you need to select what your project participants, what filter your project participants would use in that project. And that's, it's the same thing as resource permissions versus project-based permissions. Whereas if you're in a project, even if you don't have otherwise permission to edit a term base, if you're in a project, you're a translator, by default, you can update the TB, so you can add and even edit existing term-based entries. If you need more specific permissions to be granted, I recommend submitting feature request because we have further down on the roadmap, we have a permission revamp planned, which once again is a mammoth task to complete. And we have one more, I think. The non-translatable lists are used for the QA checks during, yeah, but not transferred to the MT engine. Is that still the same with version? Yeah, non-translatables are not connected to MT engines. No, the MT does not know about our resources. The MT framework is independent of memoQ resources, and that's also for security/privacy reasons. However, this is probably the right place to know that those of you who are concerned about, making sure that your MT uses the right terminology, we have glossary options in less complicated or MT plugins or MT plugins that are more designed for probably freelancer use, like Amazon and Tilde. And also one unsung hero that I really like is Modern MT, which we introduced in 9.6. Modern MT uses the option to upload your translation memories. And our tests have shown that this option with Modern MT actually produces much better or more consistent terminology as far as the translations from the engine than some of those that use the glossary feature where only we have find and replace, which is sort of limited terminology feature. And we have one content connector customer portal question.
Yeah, I just oh no, yeah, that's it. Yeah, for there was one question regarding the difference between 9.3 and 9.7, and I added the link to the what did I miss? What am I missing page, where you can compare any two versions of memoQ, and it will just tell you the difference between those versions. Yeah, I wrote that in the answer, but you will get those in writing anyway. I mean, all participants.
Yeah, and also, I don't see any open questions yet, but for those of you where we answer that, we need to look into that and check with our developers or whatever, we are going to release the answers to the questions later on. And by that time, we are going to reach out and try and find out what the correct answer is for each of those. I'm not seeing any new questions. Veronica, can you see?
No, I can't either.
All right.
Haha. Mirko is asking about memsource XLIFF files. There the situation is I need samples. I will ask Reka to send out a link where you can just drop me memsource XLIFF files. There the biggest hurdle we have is we don't have real life memsource XLIFFs. I can of course create some, but I would really need to know what actual memsource users have, because I'm not a memsource user, I have to admit. So we will send you a link, and the more sample files I have, you can cover it. I mean, you can replace all the actual text with anything. And of course, we are not going to do anything with the data. I just need to see what features are actually used and how. So that's the situation with the memsource XLIFF. It's standing in the gate, but we don't have anything to experiment with. And
yeah, we have one pre-translate feature request. This is a feature request, so please submit it, David, as a feature request. If you're already in our among our public idea portal users, please use that venue, or you can do it still through our support guys.